Well, there's been a lot of talk about shortages of lorry drivers, petrol stations running low, and all of the associated trouble that's caused. I'm delighted to be joined on the show this morning to discuss this and other issues by Transport Secretary Grant Shapps, recently reappointed to his role. Welcome to the briefing this morning, Grant.
Morning. Hi, how are you doing?
Firstly, I want to ask a very practical question. What is actually being done to alleviate this driver shortage?
The first thing to know is this is an international issue. It's come about because of COVID, the massive restart, the number of goods that are being ordered, but also because we couldn't actually carry out testing for lorry drivers, HGV drivers, during COVID. So those are the reasons. There's a massive shortage across the world, huge shortages in Europe as well. What we're actually doing to fix it is we've made twice as many tests available each week than were available before coronavirus. This is the DVSA who carry out the testing, and it means that they can now process people who want to become lorry drivers much quicker. And there are a lot more people who want to do it because the wage has gone up a lot, which I think is good as well. People paid for a hard day's work and paid well for it, which is to be well.
Suggestion that and a lot of pressure on government to open up skilled worker visas, to open up work permits to allow people who may want to work in the UK to come across. And yes, many countries are experiencing the same sort of shortages that we are. But why wouldn't we do that just to add to the roster of things that we're doing to alleviate the pressure here?
So I'll look at everything. I'll move heaven and earth to do this. There are lots of different measures that we've taken, including changing the laws that, by the way, I wouldn't have been able to change had we still be in Europe, over the way that the testing operates, so administrative matters to do with the way that the tests operate. That's enabled me to double the amount of tests. And sure, we could ask European drivers to come in. European drivers already are on our road. You'll see hauliers, you'll see their lorries, you'll see their number plates all the time. They're able to come over here. They're able to do what's called cabotage work. That means pick up from one location and drop off at another. It's not just them coming into the country. And of course, then on top of that, there are 6 million EU citizens with settled and pre-settled status, many of whom may well have their HGV license, and they can come back in as well. So the primary problem is the blockage over testing. But of course, we'll look at everything else around the edges to make sure that we can get as many people on the road as quickly as possible. This has been a long-term problem, and I should point out that the problem has been exacerbated by salaries being suppressed over the years by people coming in from Europe, from Eastern Europe, settling for lower salaries. And that's led to a systemic problem where we've not been bringing enough new people into this sector.
And the prices are now rising. But one thing that is potentially blocking those drivers that we do have are protesters deciding to lie about on roads, glue themselves to roads. Now, we know that an injunction has now been filed. Why did it take a full week for the government to act on this issue?
So there are the laws available. There are other measures the police can take, and they were obviously arresting these people. What we were seeing, though, is that they were being arrested, detained for a short period of time, coming out again and actually boasting about being at their second and third and fourth event disrupting traffic. And that is why I decided to ask National Highways, who look after our major roads and motorways, to take out an injunction, which they did. And that has stopped them from going on the M25. To answer your question, injunctions are not the perfect solution. They are essentially road by road. What we need and want, and indeed will get through new legislation, the Police Act, Police Crime Act, is the ability to ensure people can't keep coming back and doing the same thing without using simply injunctions to do that.
We're hearing that the port of Dover is currently being blocked by this rebellion, by this offshoot of Extinction Rebellion as we speak. What can be done to really help? It's not just motorways now, but actually crucial ports that are being stopped. Does this injunction cover those as well?
No, it doesn't, and that's the problem with the injunction. That answers your first problem, that it's specific. I'm aware of what's happening at the port of Dover, in touch with the authorities down there. Obviously, the first line of defence is the police always on these things to act. I just have to say about these protesters, it is completely counterproductive. They are being incredibly irresponsible, whether that's walking onto a motorway and putting their own or other people's lives at risk, or actually just from the point of view of the pollution that they're creating by having, in this case, HGVs, lorries standing still, pumping out pollution. This is not the way to go about making your point. And I'm afraid that the law will inevitably catch up with them because this cannot continue.
I imagine there are going to be a lot of people who feel very frustrated, particularly people in your neck of the woods, perhaps, where one woman, Theresa Norton, a Labour councillor, has been arrested 4 times in the last 10 days. She was arrested most recently on the A1 near Welwyn Garden City, which I believe is in your constituency. What is your
Junction
message
4 in Hatfield it was, yeah.
What is your message to Theresa Norton here today?
Yeah, look, it just isn't on. There are people who are trying to go about earning a living, doing their jobs, visiting friends and families, many of whom they may not have seen for a very long time. If you've got a point to make, which I understand is actually with Insulate Britain about insulating houses, then attacking our road network, which we are quickly working to decarbonise faster than any other developed nation, by the way, is just not the way to do it. Stop destroying other people's lives. And as I say, this is one of the reasons I took the injunction, was it does mean that people can be in contempt of court, and that can lead to a prison sentence. Whereas I'm afraid the law, as it stands, needs some development to allow the police to detain people if they're going to carry on coming out time and again. And I only wish Labour would actually vote for this legislation, which we're having to push through at the moment, to ensure we can do that.
Just finally here, your injunction allows the prison sentences to be up to 2 years long. Should that Labour councillor go to prison now for 2 years?
Well, this is for judges and courts to decide. Contempt of court is a serious matter, and so they're entitled to deploy not just fines but prison as well as a result. I don't get into how the judges should respond in individual cases. I am clear that people have a right to go about their business without having protesters sitting on the road, gluing themselves to the road. There's no space for this kind of protest. By all means, protest. I mean, we have a fantastic democracy. By all means, protest lawfully and make your point and use the democratic system. But this is inexcusable, and the full force of the law should follow those individuals.
Well, Grant Shapps, on imprisoning that Labour councillor, will take it as a maybe. Thank you very much for joining us on GB News